Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Board of Curators meeting, including those joining us via live stream. I think we're going to have a couple of board members via live stream. As a courtesy, I ask everyone to bring your mic in close when you're speaking. Valerie, will you please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Curator Blitz. Curator Fry.
Here.
Curator Graves.
Here.
Curator Cruson.
Here.
Curator Lehman.
Here.
Curator Luchtmeyer.
Here.
Curator Raines.
Here.
Curator Sinkfield.
Here.
And Curator Williams is absent. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. I'd like to now ask everyone to rise and join Curator Fry in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All veterans, please salute the flag as we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Curator Fry always does that with such flourish. I feel motivated in the morning. We'll now proceed with the administration of the oath of office for our newly confirmed curators, which I want to just note that we're very happy to have you aboard and look forward to working with you. Invite Blaine Luchtmeyer and John Raines to step forward to the podium. As you prepare to take this solemn oath, we recognize the responsibilities and opportunities ahead as stewards of the University of Missouri's mission, values, and goals. Your service will play a vital role in shaping the future of the university and the state. Valerie will administer the roll.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, John Raines,
I, John Raines,
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully
demean myself
as a member of the Board of Curators of the University of Missouri System.
as a member of the Board of Curators of the University of Missouri System.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Repeat after me. I, Blaine Luchtmeyer,
I, Blaine Luchtmeyer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully demean myself
and I will faithfully demean myself
as a member of the Board of Curators of the University of Missouri System.
as a member of the Board of Curators of the Missouri System.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, the first item on the agenda is the chair report. You know, I tried to do some math on the number of curators, and I don't know how many they've had over the years or how long the terms have been, but I think if you take 186 years and divide it by 5, let's say that's the average term, and multiply it by 9, I think that's around 300. So let's say maybe 500, maybe almost 1,000, but there's very few people that have been trusted with this university over the many years that we've existed. I know some of the administrators feel like that they've met half of the 500, but we appreciate your service. I want to first thank Chancellor Delgani for hosting us today. It's wonderful to be back at Missouri S&T and see all the impressive work happening so far in 2025. As we noted yesterday at the groundbreaking, every time we come here, we're either putting a shovel in the ground or we're cutting a ribbon. So that's a real tribute to what you've done. And we also have to acknowledge and thank, we always keep in mind our donors, and the Cummer Foundation, Missouri S&T Cummer Foundation, has certainly been a big part of the success of this university and certainly of Missouri S&T. So we want to acknowledge them. To start my report, I'd like to recognize a Curator's Distinguished Professor and a Curator's Distinguished Teaching Professor from S&T. This distinction for our faculty is the highest honor this board awards. We recognize these exceptional professors for contributing to the quality of teaching and across the UM system. Today, we welcome 2 S&T professors into this outstanding group. Our first honoree is Dr. Marilee Kruger from the Department of Psychological Science. Dr. Kruger is a leader in cognitive developmental psychology and is passionate about the teaching and success of her students. She teaches a minimum of 4 psychology courses per semester and consistently earns excellent evaluations for each course. Additionally, go ahead and come on up if you'd like. Additionally, she's also an abundant resource for fellow faculty and provides an incredible example of service. Outside of the classroom, Dr. Kruger dedicates her time to advising 35 students each semester. That's quite a few. And presenting to many campus organizations and participating in recruitment efforts for the university. Congratulations, Professor Kruger. Our next honoree is Dr. Ming Liu from the College of Engineering and Computing. Dr. Liu is an expert in additive manufacturing, 3D printing, smart manufacturing, robotics, come on up, robotics and cyber physical systems. As a leader in the field, he is requested for to be a visiting professor around the world, including South Africa, China, and Singapore, and he has consulted with companies such as Boeing, Ford Motor Company, and AT&T, just to name a few. His significant contributions at S&T have been paramount to the university's research priorities and progression. Did we have some slides on these particular folks? I guess I'm the one that's supposed to be doing that. Okay. Let me go ahead and finish. Dr. Liu has received research funding from approximately 150 external sources totaling over $52 million. That's an outstanding record. Through his dedication, he's led his research group for over 30 years, making outstanding contributions to biomedical, aerospace, and energy manufacturing industries. Congratulations, Professor Liu. It is always so so great to be able to go through those CVs and biographies of the curators, professors. Sometimes we don't hear enough good about the things, the research items that the professors are doing on our various campuses, and that's really exciting. So it's been a very busy month so far, and I'm extremely excited because we are at the forefront of transformational research at our universities. On April 2nd, we celebrated the opening of the 47,000 square foot addition to the University of Missouri Research Reactor at Mizzou. This critical expansion gives more space for opportunities to partner with industry and innovation in medical isotope research and production. And just yesterday morning, we hosted a ceremonial signing for the state-of-the-art reactor, Next Gen MER. At 20 megawatts, it will be twice as large as the current reactor, making it a hub for research, innovation, and economic development. And I think it's a great example of research at the university. They started planning for that reactor in the 1950s. They built it in the 1960s. In the 1990s, they didn't close it, like many research reactors across the country were closed. And we maintained our commitment to that research, and we didn't know where it would lead. And eventually it led to a place where we are providing the key cancer drug for many, many patients across the country and making new discoveries every year. So that kind of long-term commitment is what research takes. And yesterday afternoon here at S&T, we broke ground on the new Missouri Bioplex, which is a new chapter, I think, in engineering here at Missouri and S&T. They've had life science engineering courses for a long time, but that's a real focus now that'll be brought together at that facility. So that is another commitment that we'll make for 60 or 100 years at least, and I look forward to that. That project will be the largest capital project ever at S&T. And it's a facility where researchers and students alike will work on solving critical challenges at the intersection of life sciences. Amazing things, let's go to slide 6. Amazing things are happening at all four universities across the system. Along with these exciting facilities, we celebrated an important milestone last month at the UMKC School of Medicine St. Joseph campus. The inaugural cohort of medical students received their residency placements at the campus's first match day event. At UMSL, they held a grand opening of a new research and development lab in collaboration with their project partner, the API Innovation Center. The lab will help advance the nation's research and manufacturing of small molecule active pharmaceutical ingredients. It's a critical project because these medicines are typically outsourced outside the U.S. Each of these achievements illustrates the system's growth and value to Missouri. They are fundamental to our state's progress. They advance the health and well-being of our citizens and provide value to our economy. I can't wait to see all these projects and the impacts that they will make. Visionary projects like these display our preparedness and show that we are at the forefront of advances in research across the U.S. and the world. Forward thinking is critical to our mission and a responsibility we take seriously. As we all anticipate, federal funding continues to be a topic of conversation and uncertainty. And over the last several years, in anticipation of that, this board and this administration have worked together to prepare our institutions for a wide variety of potential challenges. We all knew that the influx of money was not going to last and that we needed to be prepared. We're Missourians, so we're always a little skeptical of good news, and we prepared, and I'm very glad that we did. Undoubtedly, we'll face some impacts when it comes to changes in the federal funding, but those impacts could lead to some tough decisions, but we're not worried. We're a resilient university, and we'll be thoughtful in our approach to addressing challenges as they arise. I have full confidence in this board and the leadership of each of our universities to continue achieving our mission and goals for academic and research excellence for the great state of Missouri and the United States and the world. Thank you. All right, next up, we're going to have the President's report.
Well, good morning. It's great to be back in the Rolla campus, and I want to begin with some very positive news about the R1 status for both Missouri S&T and UMKC. This is a major milestone that illustrates the outcome of very hard work by the leaders, both the chancellors, provosts, VPRs, and especially the faculty members and students and staff that made it happen. So congratulations. And I believe Dr. Degani is going to have a few more words to share during his presentation. At the University of Missouri this year, we have 5 undergraduate and graduate students that received the Graduate Fellowship, and those are the 5 students that you see above. And we have 14 other students that received honorable mention. This year, the number of NSF Graduate Fellowship was reduced from 2,000 to 1,000, which is very unfortunate because this grant is used to support American students pursuing their doctorates in the sciences. But we're very proud of these students, and those that are on the honorable mention, I hope that they apply again next year to be competitive in this very prestigious fellowship. Admissions update. As you can see from the blue percentages that are in the parentheses at the last column, for both applications and active acceptances, we're seeing a lot of positive news. At Mizzou, we're up 12% in terms of application, and it goes all the way down to up to 15% at UMKC and UMSL, and the acceptances are also very positive. Now, we're always mindful of the melt that occurs between now and actual registration in the fall, but those numbers are bucking the trend in Missouri, considering the demographics in the state. To give you an illustration of how the University of Missouri system universities have fared, I put on here the total enrollment of all students, including graduate students, as an FTE, full-time equivalent, Over the past 5 years, you can see that the range of increases go from about 10% down to 40%, minus 40%. And in between 19 and 24, many universities, including Mizzou and those universities that and Northwest Missouri State, have experienced the effects of COVID. And so many of the universities are coming out of that phase when many students decided that they did not want to attend residential programs. And as you can see, we fare better than most, but we also know that we have some work to do at all 4 universities to continue to increase enrollment. There are some universities that are facing some significant problems. They're very good universities like Truman State that has seen almost a 38% decline in the number of full-time equivalent students. In terms of student success highlights, I'll let you scan the 4 entries that you see here, and we're very pleased to be joined by the #1 team in the United States in the Petro Bowl, and I believe they are here. Please stand. Very good. And you may, well, I'm sure you know this, but Missouri S&T has one of the top 3 programs in petroleum engineering. And students come from all over the world to study here. And the Petro Bowl is essentially Jeopardy regarding petroleum. And now, after winning the first place in this competition, they'll be going to the World Championship. And we wish you all the best. We're very proud of you. Thank you. Missouri S&T also has a world-class metallurgical and materials engineering program, and it is ably led by Dr. Michael Moats. And Dr. Moats graduated from this university, is from the Rolla region, and he's been elected to really the essence of the pinnacle of performance in metallurgical engineering, and he's been selected as a fellow of SME. And Dr. Moats, you are here. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. These are awards that are larger than $1 million that I highlight. There are others, but we'll present them at next meetings. Dr. Mark Johnson from the School of Medicine at Mizzou received a grant for pathogen testing for $10 million. And this is terrific because it is a partnership opportunity that lets us expand beyond the federal government for research grants. At UMSO, Professor Sam Wong, who is a E. Desmond Lee Endowed Professor, who also has a joint appointment at the Danforth Center, is investigating circadian rhythms and how that affects not only plants, animals, but also humans. At UMKC, as you know, they have a powerhouse program in security engineering, cybersecurity, and Dr. Ahmed Hassan received $1.8 million from DOD but related to DOE, this is a DARPA project, which is really a pioneering organization within DOD to understand how best to characterize radars as it's used for military and counterinsurgency activities. And at Missouri S&T, Dr. Sejo Das, who's also I believe a Curators professor as well, Dr. Das. We just didn't have enough room to put all of the titles on there. But he is the Daniel St. Clair Endowed Chair Professor as well as a Curators Distinguished Professor. And he received $1 million to develop technology for smart farms. This is what our engineers at S&T do. Important work that cuts across disciplines to benefit society. And Dr. Das, please stand and be recognized. These are some slides that were not included in the original packet, but I presented this at a few of the university faculty meetings, and Curator Graves asked if I can include it for this presentation. And for this section, I would like to ask that this be an interaction that includes the chancellors as well for their perspective. But the perception of higher education, as we've seen through surveys that have been conducted over the past decade, shows that the perception of higher education is going down. And I know there are a lot of dots that are on there, but if you look at the lightest blue dot, those were survey results in 2015 that asked the question of Americans, do you have confidence, a great deal, or quite a lot of confidence in each of those sectors, whether it's small business all the way down to Congress? The dark blue dots are the most recent data from 2023. So let's take a look at small business. In 2015, about 68% of Americans said that they had a high degree, great deal, or quite a lot of confidence. And that reduced to about 66% in 2023. Not much of a difference. So you can see how those changes have occurred. But if you look at higher education, it has had the greatest reduction during that period. Out of all, it's not the lowest, but it had the greatest reduction during that period, as you can see from there. And we decided to break this down into how Democrats, Independents, and Republicans actually responded to that survey. Among Democrats, it was reduced from 68 to 59%. Among Independents, 48 to 32%. And among Republicans, 56% in 2015 to 19% in 2023. We are in the higher ed business, all of us. And you're probably wondering, why is this occurring? We believe that we're offering a high quality, affordable education to our students, conducting research that makes an impact to society and to the community. But why is the public feeling the way that they do? And some of the reasons are shown here. And as you can see on tuition costs, most Americans, Republican or Democrats, believe that tuition costs are too high. Next, there's still some good agreement between Republicans and Democrats. Students are not getting the skills they need to succeed in the workplace. There's more of a divergence when asked the question, too much concern about protecting students from views they may find offensive, where Republicans say it's 75%, at a rate of 75%, Democrats at 31%. But the one that has the greatest divergence is when they're asked the question if they agree, professors are bringing their political and social views into the classroom. 17% for Democrats and 79% for Republicans. Now, we can look at these results and have a number of different reactions. And I'm going to, Chair Graves, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask the chancellors to add, and also curators as well. When we see data like this, what should be the response of higher education leaders? Should it be, well, Americans don't understand what we do, or I'm concerned that they feel that way, and let's figure out why they think that, and how can we address the concerns that they have, especially being a public university that relies so much on the support of Missourians. They pay taxes that support our universities to the tune of $500 to $510 million per year. So a question for chancellors, if you want to answer.
Yeah, I can start. You know, with regards to higher education, I've been in higher education for over 30 years, and it's been interesting to see that evolution of public thought, but also how either higher education is in some certain areas, like I see that here with our universities, evolved to meet that challenge, meaning we need to be more proactive in making sure that we are training and engaging our students in what's most relevant to society, economic development. And that wasn't necessarily how education started in the past. It was more about educating, certain people, well-rounded citizens, but not necessarily engaging them in the economic growth and development of their region or their state. And I see that changing around, but then it's about making sure that we are getting that word out. If perceptions are different than what we think they are, then we need to do a better job of
Addressing them.
addressing
Yes.
the great work that we are doing, the applied research that we just illustrated.
Thank you. Yes, Chancellor Degani?
So I fully agree with Chancellor Soblik. We are in the business of education, but I'm not sure whether we are doing a good job of educating the public about the education that we do. The other element of it is I'm not sure these are national trends, but when we ask our people, they believe in our education. I think it was you that mentioned that it's like, I love my congressman, but I don't necessarily like Congress. I think that a level of that is valid here as well. I love the university I went to, but I don't like the broader education concept. So all of that falls in the category of, are we doing a good job educating the public beyond educating the public?
I do believe that we should take these results seriously, whether we believe these are the right perceptions or not. If people are seeing this, then we need to do a better job. Two things. Number one, we need to keep hammering away at our core missions, which are education and research, to forward our community. Number two, I think you've said this, President Choi, earlier, that if you do this same kind of survey in Missouri, you will get different results. And so it's also local, that we are seen more positively here locally than perhaps the national pieces. But we need to do a better job at making sure that people realize that what we are producing helps economic development, workforce development, prosperity for a nation. I don't think we are focusing on that message enough.
Thank you. Curators, any comments or? Okay, all right. Well, stop me anytime. Now I want to move a little bit towards what's happening nationally in higher education. And what this shows is the number of NIH projects that have been awarded since the beginning of the fiscal year up until March 31st. So it's fiscal year to date comparisons. And you could see from 2021 to 2024, pretty consistent in the number of NIH awards that have been made. But you can see that this year, we're at a significantly lower number. And that's because of some of the slowdowns that we've been seeing out of NIH and also cancellation of certain programs that we see out of NIH. Let me share with you that the NIH work that we do at our universities are critically important for gaining a better understanding of cancer treatments, to autism, to PTSD, and so many other types of diseases and ailments that affect Americans. And we want to continue with that work. So we're making a strong case to the NIH and to our elected leaders about the support that we need to perform these research programs. NSF, if you were to look at NSF, the data looks very, very similar. Recently, Department of Education identified 60 universities and colleges that they are going to be investigating over claims of anti-Semitism. The universities of University of Missouri System were not included in that list, and so we are not ones that are going to be investigated. But those universities that are being investigated, here's some of the things that are happening, and we're watching the news every day to find out what new things are occurring when it comes to these investigations. What happened maybe about a month ago was that the administration pulled $400 million from Columbia, and Columbia University decided to negotiate with the university, with the administration, and the administration was reviewing the responses from the university. But something happened over the weekend in which that the letter of agreement was shared with the federal government, in which it was unclear what was said during a closed session faculty meeting between the interim president and the faculty. After that was revealed in the news, the administration decided to then explore a consent decree. And so the negotiation is still continuing, but nothing has been resolved in this particular case. At Harvard University, the government wanted to examine $9 billion in federal funding obligations to Harvard University. And over the past few days, some dramatic turn of events have occurred that are worth examining. So Harvard University decided to reject the demands with federal funding at risk, $9 billion. And that happened, I think, 2 or 3 days ago. And later that evening, the administration froze $2.2 billion in funding. It's not a cut, but it's a freezing of those grants. And then we now learn that there is talk of the IRS potentially revoking the tax-exempt status at Harvard University, which will affect their business operations and so forth. And so we are examining what's happening at other universities and focusing on what are things that we can do proactively so that we are not in the category of being investigated. Because so many of our students, faculty, and staff rely on the federal grants that support scholarships for Pell students, all the way to research that our faculty members are engaged in to improve agriculture in the state of Missouri. So this is something that we will keep the board fully engaged in terms of new developments that occur and discuss with you potentially any action or non-action that we may take when it comes to these matters. So with that, any questions or comments? Okay.
Thank you, President Choi.
All right, just a couple of more slides. Because of the federal cuts and because of what's happening to indirect cost rates, many universities, including ours, are exploring budget rescission where it makes sense, but also reallocations to invest in those activities that generate revenues. And I'll end with, I think that's the last one. I'll end it with this slide. We have new leaders. We're attracting leaders from all over the country to come to our universities. And Susan Murray is not here. I believe she is teaching, but Deborah Bordeaux is the Vice Provost for Online Learning and Education Innovation at S&T. And Deborah, you're here. Welcome. Deborah, by the way, where did you join us from? Where? Embry-Riddle, out in Daytona Beach. Yes, okay, Daytona Beach to Rolla. That's, we're grateful that you're here. And we also have Troy Brune, who is the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, and he joined us from Wichita State University. And I think that's it in terms of new people. All right, Chair Graves, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, President Choi. Next, we're going to have Mo Delgani is going to present the Missouri S&T review.
Thank you, Chairman Graves. And on behalf of S&T team, I'd like to welcome all of you to our beautiful campus, campus that is slated to get even more beautiful. So welcome. I'd like to highlight some of our activities here, starting with a video show of our students' activities. It takes all of a minute and a half or so, so here it is. And that's Martin Delahunt, who's the band leader for us, as well as the chair of the student council, and he's graduating this year as well. So let me highlight some of our North Star goals. As you know, 5 years ago, we established a set of goals to give the university a sense of direction. And the first one was that we wanted to reach our R1 category, Carnegie R1 research category. And the second one was establish ourselves as a nationally and frankly internationally recognized university. And then the third one is the ever persisting number of enrollment growth, both at undergraduate and graduate enrollment numbers. As President Choi mentioned, we were fortunate to achieve our R1 goal in about half the time. The goals that you saw there were decadal goals, so we were hoping to achieve those by the end of the decade. But on February 13, I think it was about 10:21 in the morning where we got the news that we actually achieved the R1 goal. Myself and my colleague, Chancellor Agrawal, we both received the good news that we are an R1 university. On this slide, you see the category of universities that are in R1, Carnegie Mellon, Georgia Tech, Purdue, Virginia Tech. And then the bottom, which was surprising, you see the institutions that either were R1 and fell off the chart, or they're still trying to become an R1 university. So we are really over the moon with this category, and it'll make a huge difference for us in terms of recruiting faculty, in terms of attracting grants, in terms of attracting students, graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, and so on and so forth. So that's a great achievement for us, and frankly, great majority of this is due to our faculty, the quality of faculty that we have here. This slide is a publication by Stanford University that every year publishes the list of top 2% scientists in the world. We have about 400 tenure and tenure track faculty members, so our 2% share would be about 8 people. And you see the numbers there. That's the number of our faculty that appeared in the list of top 2% the Stanford scientists in the world. So, I honestly, I think these numbers are remarkable for a small university. The distinction that you see there between the two numbers, the light blue color are the people who've been on it for a long time, and the lighter color, the white color, are the faculty who got on the list this year for their achievements of this year. We are really, really impressed with our faculty's work when it comes to research. You can see that from 2020 to 2024, we more than doubled, in a span of 4 years, we more than doubled our research awards. And it is very broad-based, as you can see. This is the number per tenure track faculty. So it's not all concentrated. If you take our faculty members and divide it by the total numbers, you see that in 2020, we were at $99,000 per faculty members, and we are nearly 3 times as much in 2024. And I want to give a shout out to Kamal. Is Kamal here in the room? Yes. Would you stand up, please, Kamal? Kamal Hayat, our Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, who's done really a remarkable job of bringing the entirety of the campus up to this level. As far as recognitions go, national recognitions, this is a New York Times front page article that ranked universities based on return on investment. And you can see the column that says we are number 8. It's based on the high earnings, so the average starting salary and mid-career faculty salary, and you can see the company with which we are in. Caltech, University of Florida, Harvard, Yale, Georgia Tech. And we are number 8 in that category, and we are number 2 if you're measuring the starting salary, mid-career salary, and then you don't have to be a 4.0 to get in. So we take on the smart Missouri kids, and they end up with salaries that are comparable to the schools that you see there. And Wall Street Journal followed suit. This is this year's Wall Street Journal ranking, and we are nationally ranked number 9 as far as the return on investment goes. And again, you can see the companies that we are in. More importantly, we are number 1 starting salary in the state of Missouri by far. If you look at the list of starting salaries, on the average starting salary of graduates, we are number 1, and a distant second is Washington University. And then after that are the other universities that you see lined up here. So we are really excited about the national recognitions. This is Princeton Review, and you can see the rankings that they did for us. And now into enrollment. This is a harder nut to crack, as you can imagine, particularly given the so-called demographic cliff in the Midwestern states, including Missouri, where we are at an average of 4% fewer high school graduates, and many even of the high school graduates, as President Choi mentioned, choose not to go to 4-year colleges. But here's a trend for our enrollment. Our peak was somewhere in year 2014, 2015, and for some reason we precipitously declined until 2020, and then of course there was the unfortunate COVID effect. But you can see that in the last 3 years we are steadily increasing our enrollment numbers. You will not see at this place, this university, you will not see numbers like 20, 30% increase per year. But you will see a steady 6, 7, 8% increase, and I think this year we are at 8% increase, or 7% increase at our deposits. So we are staying tuned on our effort, and believe me, the whole university all the time is focused on enrollment. We are, of course, facing headwinds with the international graduate students. Like many other universities, the bulk of our graduate students are international. And with the geopolitical tensions and everything else that's going on, visas take up to 2 years to be issued for international graduate students. So that's an issue that we are dealing with now. In the last 3 years, we have added 13 new degree programs to really address the critical issues that face the country. We were the first to offer a bachelor's degree in semiconductor engineering. We were fortunate that an alumni of our engineering program gave us $10 million to start a new semiconductor engineering. He runs a semiconductor company, and they need 50,000 engineers by the year 2030. And so as soon as we did that, then 2 other universities started following suit. RPI and I believe Rochester Institute started the semiconductor engineering as well. And then true to what we did yesterday, you noticed that fields of bioengineering, biomechanical engineering, biological sciences. We have 2 PhDs and a bachelor's degree in that area, and our number of applications in those fields are skyrocketing as well. So here is another video. It highlights the effort of our faculty, so I direct your attention to the slides as well. And if we could increase the volume a little bit, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, now to the physical campus. Does this sound better? Okay. Due to the physical campus, as you saw yesterday, we did the groundbreaking for our largest, newest project on campus. But I'd like to highlight the fact that we've had 9 major projects on this campus. We've spent $500 million in facilities. And no, not every one of those dollars came from Fred and June Comer. In fact, we still have more than the initial amount that Fred and June bestowed to this university in our accounts as we speak. So this has been a broad-based effort by our faculty leadership, thanks to the state of Missouri, the federal government, other individual donors. So we are really, really excited about bringing our campus to modern era. So here is another video I'd like for you to see, and that reflects what the campus looked like. So if you look at this picture here, this is what the arrival district looked like in 2020. 7 buildings in this picture have been demolished to make room for what we are doing right now, including the power plant on the top left corner on that of the picture. So with that, let's look at this video. Volume, please. Okay. We are actually an institute of technology. We should be able to have volume, and we usually do. I don't know what's going on with our sound system here. But let me also highlight some of the dates that the projects will come on board. The building that we were in yesterday came on in February of last year. And the Welcome Center, the picture that you see here, is due to come on board on August. So for the new academic year, that building will be up and running. It's really desperately needed because we welcome parents and students and applicants in a distributed manner across the campus, and this will be a focal point. This is our bioplex, and 130,000 square foot facility, and it is really designed to be a destination of choice for small manufacturing companies in the state of Missouri who need research and development, but they don't have the bandwidth to have their own R&D. And we've done great with this. The facility is not ready yet. February 26 is going to come online, but it's already accounted for as companies flock to this facility. We designed the building to be a resource for small manufacturing companies, which has a state definition, by the way, fewer than 100 people employed. But big companies are coming into Protoplex. Boeing just assigned 2 engineers permanently to be in this building and live in Rolla and work with our professors. Caterpillar did the same thing. So companies are coming to be an integrated part of our research and development. Again, we are every year, Rick Bellow, who I don't know if Rick is here or not, but he's been a godsend. He joined us 3 years ago from Notre Dame, and he's elevated the concept of manufacturing here at S&T to a stratosphere or something. He's done a terrific job, and he holds a symposium every year, and hundreds of companies come to campus because they want to be a part of the solution. There are STEM at S&T now has 2 M's. So the second M is for medicine. Because of our new College of Medical Engineering and Bioinnovation, which will be housed in the facility that you saw that we broke ground yesterday on that. Many projects that are ongoing, and if you have a moment, you walk across the campus, you will see everything that's going on here. And of course, this is the picture of our newest building that will be ready in 3 years. Bioplex we are very, very excited about this because the research that will go in here, it is on the side of biology rather than transportation and mechanical and chemical and all of that. But it's different than what goes on at Mizzou. We are focused on biotechnology. And all the activities that will happen here, it's really at the area of confluence between engineering and medicine. And we think there is great opportunities for research and education in this facility. So there is one more slide or video I'd like for you to see. If we can get the volume a little higher, that'll be great. Please note that what you just saw on this video is not a futuristic concept. 90% of what you saw is already here or is slated to be completed in a year and a half, with the exception of the bioplex that will take 3 years to build all the wet labs and biological facilities. So we are really, really excited. For over 155 years, your university here at S&T has been a crown jewel of American science and engineering education, and as you can see, we intend to continue with critical contributions to critical challenges for another 150 years. I'll see you all here at that time, and we will see whether we've achieved the goals or not. So thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Chancellor Delgado. The statistic that I really, really enjoy hearing is that you take students of average means from the state of Missouri, and for $15,000 a year, you launch them into careers of building things and discovery and science. And that is, we do have a gem here, a jewel. And I will note that one of the other schools I saw in there, Stanford University, I know someone whose child went to Stanford in aerospace engineering this year, and your cost is $15,000, and theirs is more than $100,000 more than that every year over 4 years. That's a lot of money, and the outcomes are outstanding, and we're, as a board, we're so proud of this university. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Now we'll take up the approval of the 2026 Board of Curators meeting calendar. May I have a motion and a second to approve the calendar?
I have a motion, accept.
All right, we have a motion and second to approve the calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Aye.
Did we have one nay? Okay.
That was another aye, that was a little slow. That was light.
And for the new board members, you always have the option of abstaining. I don't call for abstentions, but speak out if you would like to abstain on something. So that is approved. All votes in favor. Next action item is approval of the amended Board of Curators Executive Committee and Standing Committee assignments. We'll now, may I have a motion second to approve the new committee assignments?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the new committee assignments signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda. And again, for the new board members, if there's something that you, for some reason you want to pull off and discuss, the consent agenda, that is your option. Are there any questions or discussion on the consent agenda items? All right, if there are no questions, may I have a motion second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Right, we're moving right along here. We're gonna, is Curator Cruson on the line? All right. I'm gonna turn over, Curator, to you to conduct the Finance Committee meeting.
Thank you, Chair Graves. I appreciate that. Good morning. The Finance Committee has 3 information items today and 2 action items today. Fiscal year 2026 budget update for the UM system. The first information item is an update on the fiscal 26 budget by Executive Vice President of Finance and Operations, Ryan Rapp. Will present that information. Ryan?
Thank you, Chair Cruson. So as we pull this up, I just want to take a minute. Each of our universities in MU Healthcare, they're working diligently to prepare next year's budget, and none of this would be possible without the work of our campus CFOs, healthcare CFO, and our budget offices, along with our chancellors and healthcare CEO. So there's a lot of work that's been going into it. Some of my comments, I think, will be consistent with what you heard from Chair Graves and the President this morning. This is an informational update, and really want to get any questions or feedback as we prepare to bring forward a final budget for approval in June. Keep in mind our fiscal year, consistent with the states, runs from July 1st to June 30. This is a summary of the written materials that were contained in your packet. There's 4 key sections that we do want to go over. You know, the first is typically what we would do at this meeting is what is our budget process, what are some of the key financial drivers. But we also want to take a minute to look at some of the initiatives and results that we've used to address past financial challenges. And then what we'll talk about, yes, there's certainly, you know, we're facing some level of uncertainty, and then, you know, what our framework will be for leading in this changing fiscal environment. I want you to keep just kind of 3 things in mind while we are facing some uncertainty. And we have some challenges which also present opportunity. We as a university are not in a financial crisis. I think to echo what Chair Graves said, we've been preparing for this and will continue to take proactive steps. We're doing that already in the current fiscal year, and certainly we'll do it in FY26 and beyond. And this really will help ensure that we continue to meet our financial goals. Continuous improvement is something that we're always focused on, and careful management of our operational expenses must continue. So just keep those 3 things in mind as we go through the presentation. You know, I think things certainly feel uncertain in some areas. That being said, the university is strongly positioned along with MU Healthcare. You'll hear from Rob Kanzer with Janney, our financial advisor, later today. We're a AA1 credit. It's the second highest credit rating that you can have. Now our state is a AAA rated state. But, you know, I think we'll continue to leverage that strength and strong brand, along with, I think, with working with the board and leadership. We have really strong financial policies and processes, and that isn't just me saying that. We hear that from our bondholders and from the rating agencies when we meet with them. You know, I think just to think about that, some of the things we're all doing, yes, we have some hiring restrictions in place. We've implemented some purchasing controls. And all of our universities are slowing down spend where it's appropriate, but also focusing on where we can make investments to grow revenue. But just for some context, just for MU alone, and I'll have numbers at the June meeting for all universities, but you know, we're well through fiscal year 25, but we've already identified about $16 million in savings at MU for just the current year we're in. This next chart is something I just used to kind of orient us. And we call it the colors of money, and part of it is the university has a broad mission. We do a lot of different things, and not all of our dollars are the same. So you will hear, you know, we have almost a $5 billion budget. On the left side of the chart, you have what we call the green dollars, and that's really where the educational mission of the university is funded. So it's about $1.3 billion across our 4 universities, and that's where the money from the net tuition and fees that our students and parents pay, along with the state appropriations, we receive. And so, you know, those dollars are the least constrained. There's 3 primary dollars there. You get a state appropriation dollar, you get a dollar from tuition, and then you can get dollars from enrollment. The one thing I'd note with enrollment is it does come with marginal cost attached to it. The other 2 don't. Another part of that bucket, but you know, not as large for us, is our F&A cost recovery, or indirect cost recovery that we receive on federal grants. And there's 2 components to that. There's an administrative component that's capped at 26%, and then the remainder of that rate is related to recovering facilities cost that comes from that red bucket you see on the right, which is our most constrained. And that's where gifts and sponsored funding, research, things like that come in, but those are restricted to a very specific purpose. We don't have discretion to say we're going to go do whatever we want with that money. There's an agreement usually that this is what you're going to spend it specifically on. If you think about our endowment, when we get individual endowments, again, we have thousands of individual endowments. Those are primarily used to fund very specific professorships or scholarship. So we really appreciate that. It helps supplement what we do, but we can't say, well, we're going to move this over here to fund a budget challenge we might have with our operating fund. Then in the middle, I broke this out into two groups. We call it the yellow. These are really our business-like operations. So on the middle, auxiliary service charges, think of things like D1 athletics, housing and dining, bookstores, parking, our research reactor. Those things are all contained within that. And we look for those to be self-funded or self-sustaining in most cases. Sometimes, depending on the year, there's resources that flow back and forth between that and the green bucket. And then on the far right, or the middle right, the $2.2 billion, I think it's important to note, our healthcare operation continues to grow as an overall percentage of our budget and is critically important. And while there's certainly challenges that we see in healthcare, that diversification has also been noted as a credit positive for us. And this current fiscal year, we've seen nice, healthy returns from healthcare. You know, healthcare as an industry went through some challenges coming off COVID, and through the hard work with Rick Ransom, Dr. Barron, and others on that team, they're doing really quite well this year. The other thing I want to give just some context to, and this isn't our chart, this is usually in the governor's budget book every year, and it's just to give some context about, you know, I think it's not all that similar from the chart I just went over. You hear, well, we have a $5 billion budget. Well, a lot of what we do is on the margins, and it's very similar for the state. So you'll hear people say the state has a $52 billion budget. Well, you got to then break that down to the middle circles, the general operating budgets. It's about $16 billion, and that's primarily funded by personal income tax and sales tax. And then within that, they have what they view as discretionary, which is about $3.94 billion. So keep that in mind. And then higher education of that $4 billion discretionary is about $1.3 billion, and then we're roughly $500 million of that. What I'm trying to highlight is the state, just like us, has hard choices to make, and there's not a lot of discretionary revenue that they have to just say, well, we want to go do whatever we want with it. You know, I think as we look at FY26 and we prepare for that, you saw the president's update on enrollment. You know, I think we'll base that, you know, on what we're expecting. I think we've got a good handle on where enrollments are going to land. We're looking, and we'll discuss that more in May, moderate increases in tuition. You know, as far as state appropriations, we're currently holding that at 1.5%. I think as the budget works through being finalized through the House and Senate, there's the possibility that that number could go up. But I think we need to keep in mind that, you know, the increases we've been seeing from the state, both in terms of capital and operating appropriations, probably aren't going to be sustained at those post-COVID levels. We're going to go back to kind of a pre-COVID area. Then as far as compensation, we are focused on trying to provide performance-based increases and market increases. We haven't set those numbers yet, and really we'll have a better sense as we work through finalizing the state budget. But I want to be clear, we do not do across-the-board increases. So, you know, if you hear us saying we're going to have a 2% pool for merit and market, that doesn't mean that every employee is getting 2%. We're going to have some employees get 0. We're going to have some employees probably get 7 or 8% increases. But it really is a merit-based, performance-based process. And then from a capital standpoint, the best way I can describe this is we're focusing on finishing or building out what's already been approved. You know, we've seen over $500 million in state capital appropriations show up over the last couple of years. So we've got a lot of work to do, and just in terms of what we received, and we're not projecting that that's going to sustain itself as we go forward. Capital is largely going to be driven by a function of what resource can we produce within our own operations, and then I think the other source of that will be largely focused on philanthropic efforts. So that's just at a high level our planning assumptions that we're thinking about as we develop the budget. I do want to look back at our prior results and some of the challenges we faced. It's not to say that we don't have work to do and we need to continue to improve, but I do think as we go through this, it gives us confidence that we can lead through this uncertainty and the challenges we face. You know, this is just highlighting some of the things we've been doing since 2017. So, administrative efficiency, when we think about that, we've done leadership restructuring, we've made changes to our benefit plans, we've centralized and done more in terms of shared services. We've spent a lot of time improving our financial planning and accountability in terms of resource utilization. From a revenue standpoint, we really tried to leverage our general pool to generate additional resources for the chancellors and the president to invest. Additionally, we made significant changes over the last 2 years to our tuition model, moving away from a base tuition with about 60 supplemental course fees at the undergraduate level to tiered tuition. We have anywhere from 3 to 5 tiers of tuition. And the response to that we've received from our students has been really well received, and I think it's actually an advantage for us because not only is it helping us, it's helping them in terms of predictability of what it's going to cost to attend the institution. The other thing is, from a faculty productivity standpoint, you've seen, and I'll get into some of the charts later, but our research growth, all of that has been really driven by, while our faculty numbers have been held constant, we've just churned more and more research through our faculty. And then, certainly there's been some consolidations, both at MU and then UMKC did a significant realignment of its academic portfolio through COVID. I'd highlight that our administrative spend as a total percent in 2017 was about 30.7%. We're down to 25.8. You contrast that with the peer group that we benchmarked to. They were at 37.5 in 2017 as a percentage of their total spend, and that's actually grown to 38.5%. So I think, our effort really here has been, how do we drive resources to the core mission of the university? And I think we've been really successful in doing that, but we're not done. I think, though, that's all been done through a pretty acute enrollment crisis that you can say started in 2015, but we really didn't feel it financially until 2017. You go through COVID along with that. And then also, as I noted, healthcare, and they're coming out of it, but just the downturn that you saw more broadly, not anything our healthcare team did, but just broadly healthcare going through a financial slowdown. Just to take a little finer look at this, this is now I'm just talking about MU. The results are similar for our other universities, but this is a chart. I think when we started on this and continue to work on it, it really has been that we knew our workforce was going to have to shift. And so when you look at this, you can see the large shift that we've seen in terms of clerical staff. We're down almost 600 positions. And when you look at the areas of growth, and so what drove that? Well, looking at shared services, centralizing things, and then leveraging technology. And then where you see we have growth, so the growth has been in healthcare, in IT, and some of those other areas, and that's really been pegged to places where we've seen significant revenue growth. So healthcare over that period, revenue has grown by 70%. Our research reactors grown by 3x, and then just the other piece of this is just our research has grown by 74% over that same period. This is just another look at our administrative spend and looking at where we're at relative to others. So this is just taking, finance, HR, IT, procurement, those types of things, and comparing that to how we spend relative to other peers. We're $40 million less than the SEC average. Kentucky's the only institution that's lower than us. Now, keep in mind, they're about $2.6 billion larger with some of their health. Our MU Healthcare isn't included in those numbers. Kentucky does include those, so they've got a larger base. They're spreading that across. And the only institutions that spend less in gross dollars are all smaller than us, and I believe those are Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Auburn. So this is another chart that I think, one of the things we're always challenging ourselves, are we really delivering on saying we're trying to drive as much resource as possible directly to the mission of the university, which is teaching, research, and extension. And, I think we participate in a consortium where we submit our spend data and other institutions do. We do this for all 4 universities, and I would tell you the results are similar for all of them. The chart on the far left is saying, what's your administrative spend as a percent of total labor? And so you can see the difference between the benchmark average. And we're below the average. But then when we look and say, what is our academic spend? So what are we spending on teaching, research as a percentage of total labor? We're above the benchmark average. And I say that too, on the far right, one of the things I constantly look at is what is our, I call it our net revenue per student, but it's really saying taking that net tuition that we get on a per student basis and that state appropriation that we get on a per, when we're saying per FTE, we're talking about full-time equivalent students. And that, so we have less resource per student, but I think then when you look at our outcomes, we're beating many of those in that benchmark, and we're certainly driving more of those resources towards the mission of the university. Another thing that we look at is just in terms of output. What is, what are our operating expenses or operating costs doing in terms of output? And so you can see that the solid line is showing you, what our educational expense per degree awarded was. And you compare that then to inflation, and it's dropped by 20% over that period of time. And keep in mind, this is through an enrollment crisis. So you might get worried that, well, because our enrollment's dropping, this is going to climb. Our degrees as of 2021 had fallen by 16% over what was awarded in 2017. And if you think about that, that was because we had those smaller classes coming in 16, 17, and they were graduating in 21. So, we did adjust our operating expense relative to the size of the classes that we have. And then I think, as I talked about faculty productivity earlier, if you look at this, if you grew your research faculty at inflation at where it was in 2017, we'd be at 113,000. As you can see, we've outgrown that by 26% over that same period. So we really have, I've seen our faculty be more productive over that period. I know the math on this, I sometimes get tripped up on, but this is really looking over 8 budget periods just for MU. And if you stack those up, we had about 370 million in budget challenges. Through that, we achieved about 440 million in cost reductions, but we also grew revenue by 151 million over that period. So it wasn't that we just made cost reductions to say we need to meet the budget shortfalls. We were also trying to make cost reductions to invest in these mission critical areas of the university. And so I'm not going to read these off to you, but you can see, I think as you say, what have those outcomes been? We've seen significant growth in research. We've seen significant improvement in our retention rates and graduation rates, which is really the outcomes that we should be focused on. So I think this gets to, well, what are some of the challenges that we face as we look going forward? And what I'm showing here on this chart, it doesn't show it very well. The light gray shaded bars just indicate economic recessions. The side on the left is showing what the federal deficit has been relative to GDP. And I think all I'm trying to communicate here is that, for the significant federal grants that we receive, and you think about research, if you look at this, we're not going to see research continue to grow at the pace that it has been. And I think there's been some real challenges with that. And so, as there's work to continue to reduce the deficit, and you can see research growth grew by 11% over the last 2-year period. We're probably looking at a period more like we saw during the Budget Control Act of 2011. This is just, as you move away from kind of what is going on at the federal level and you think about our state appropriations, what I'm really trying to highlight here again is this is just what it's looked like over time. We've taken it and grown that by inflation from 2000. I think that the point being is we did have this period in time coming off of COVID where our state appropriations history is kind of growing in line with inflation. The point being is we think we're moving back to a period that looks much more like 03 to 2019 than it does 2020 to 2025. I think you know, we monitor clearly the state revenue trends. I think one of the things, though, that we don't often discuss is the rising cost of other spending programs. So if you think back to the chart that showed the state's budgets, it's not just a function of what's the revenue that the state's collecting. You know, other spending programs are crowding out some of the funding that you've seen for higher education over time. And I guess I'd be specific. You know, there's two things when you look at our state budget that get funded above the national average. So that doesn't mean in a dollar amount it's above the national average. It just means when you look at that total budget, what's above the national average as a percentage, and that's Medicaid and K through 12. And so I always just highlight that when folks say, well, we need to go down and tell our legislators that they need to just put more money in the budget for higher education. You've got to think about, they have hard decisions to make as well about what are they going to fund and what are they going to prioritize.
Hey, Ryan, can I interrupt you for a question? What would that graph look like on K-12, that same appropriations history?
I've got it. I can get you the specific information, but you would see pretty significant growth that would have been well above where we're at. You know, part of that has been there's been a formula of funding put in place, so they've moved some of that out of that discretionary bucket. So you're seeing significant growth. Here's what K through 12 as a percentage of the total 50 million is 21.7% of the state's budget. The national average is 18.6.
That's handcuffed. We have to do 25.
So I think the other thing to think about is we're not saying we're going to have a budget reduction from the state, but just to give some context of what previous reductions have looked like. This is just laying that out and what happens, you know, when you do run into a recession. You know, probably a reduction of 10 to 15% is probable based on prior history. The one difference is, so this is not our general revenue fund balance, as the state's general revenue fund balance is currently around $4.1 billion. That's significantly higher than it's historically run. Historically, it's run at about $500 million. Now, a lot of that is obligated for capital projects, but I think even when you back those out, you're still at a number around $1.5 billion, which is going to give the state some flexibility to deal with those budget challenges. One of the things I'd also think that our state did well is with a lot of the ARPA funding that came in, those weren't invested typically in what I would say is ongoing programming, largely went into capital. You're seeing other states who didn't make those decisions and they put this into ongoing programming, and now that ARPA money's gone away and they're having to deal with budget cuts. So I want to say I think our state has done a very good job in thinking through that. This is just to put a little finer point on when I say Medicaid, and I'm not really getting into what's going to happen with Medicaid. This is just saying if we even continue the current trend, you can just see the growth in Medicaid in terms of the state's budget over time. And so when I say it's crowding out our funding, I don't have the state's numbers, but I have the national numbers going back to 1985. But you can see, you know, we're at now 41% in 23, and it continues to grow. This is just a chart to give you some historical context in terms of enrollment trends. I've always found this chart interesting from the standpoint of if you look from 1974, and this is across the system, we had about 42,000. And again, this isn't head count, this is full-time equivalent students. And that stayed the same really around 2000. Now, if you layered that with the chart I showed on state appropriations, enrollment started to grow. Yes, there were some demographic trends, but it was also at the same time we were facing budget reductions from the state. And you see the enrollment peak in kind of 2014, and now, you know, specifically at MU and S&T, we're starting to see that curve work its way back up. I wouldn't sit here today and tell you that we're going to go back to 60,000 students, but probably looking to get somewhere in that 55,000 FTE range for the system is something that's achievable. Now, there certainly are demographic trends that don't work in our favor that I'll show on this next chart. That all being said, and you'll hear a little bit of this, I think, from Rob today when he gives his debt and credit update, is, you know, you can see what's Missouri's facing. You can see the South at the same time is going to provide us some stabilization to that. The other thing, too, is institutions with strong brands aren't going to face the same challenges as institution with lesser brands. And you see that in the rating agency reports of really what they continue to highlight is they have a negative outlook, but their outlook is very bifurcated. So they tend to view small privates, publics with less branding power as facing a much different situation than those institutions. You know, I think their view is flagship land-grant research universities, as long as we have plans and continue to make the decisions we need, we'll be just fine. That gets a little bit into this next chart here, and the colors are by campus. This is not what, I want to be clear, this is not what our students actually pay. This is net tuition, so this just takes the net tuition that we collect either from students or external sources. So our institutional aid that we put to students isn't reflected in here, but Pell Grants, all of those things are reflected. You've got to remember, too, this isn't just undergraduate. So this is all, and that's when you go, well, why is UMKC as high as it is? Well, if you think about UMKC's programs, they got a lot of professional schools, and that's why it's the highest. What we're looking at is, you know, financially, where are we moving in that on this trend line? And what I would tell you is institutions that have the ability to grow their net tuition per student, which I think you can see we do, and really manage and have stable or growing enrollments are not going to have a problem making the investments they need to. Now, if you go to the flip side of that, and that's kind of where the bifurcation is, for those that have a declining net tuition per FTE, so maybe they are growing their enrollment, but they're giving it all away in terms of discounts. They are going to face some really challenging times and the need to restructure. You know, I think when we think about out-of-state enrollment, it's certainly helped us, but we're not like some even public institutions that have well above 50% of their students coming from out of state. Yes, at MU we've grown. In 2002, I think we were at about 13% out of state, and right now we're right around 23%. So it helps us, but you know, we're not as reliant on the out of state enrollments, and I would tell you those certainly can have more volatility associated with them. So I think as we just kind of wrap up, you know, the thing that we think about is we think about how do we continue to improve through this. It really is about what do we do in terms of academic productivity? What are some of the revenue enhancement opportunities that we have? So how do we think about our scholarshiping strategy? How do we leverage auxiliaries and operations like the research reactor to do that? How do we continue to think about, you know, tuition and fees being driven really by what's the demand for those types of degrees? Certainly continuing to focus on administrative efficiencies, I think, you know, and I'd really say effectiveness. I think, I'm not going to tell you that AI will solve everything for us, but it's definitely an opportunity for us that can help drive some efficiency in that space, continuing to manage our medical plan and benefit plans well. And then the far left is just resource utilization, and how do we continue to think about space utilization, improving that? I think there's some things in terms of how we deliver construction projects, especially on the smaller end, thinking differently about that. As far as next steps, this is just highlighting what the board should expect in terms of kind of our large financial items that come before you for approval. But I just kind of go back to what I said in closing. Yes, we are facing some uncertainty. We've got some challenges, but with those come opportunity, and we're not in a financial crisis. We continue to take proactive steps in FY26 and FY25 to ensure that we meet the financial goals we've established. And I think, you know, just that continuous improvement and really focus on the continued careful management of our operating cost is what gives me confidence that while we have to continue to prioritize and we'll have hard choices, that we're well positioned to lead through this, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. What percent of our students are graduate students?
Are graduate? Yeah. So I think I'll give you from Mizzou, we're what, 22,000 undergraduate and then 30,000 roughly in total, so you have about 7,000 at Mizzou. I'm not quite as familiar with the others.
So we provide graduate education in addition to undergraduate. And what do we make money on our graduate education?
So I think the foundation of any strong research university is based on its undergraduate population. And yeah, federal grants can help fund some of that graduate cost of education, but there's a reason when you look at a public research university why their tuition is higher than a comprehensive four-year university. And so it's a foundational element. UMKC has a little different program mix, but keep in mind they've got some professional programs that I think do make money. So when you get into those, there is an opportunity to make money. But the undergraduate, that's why undergraduate enrollment is so important. It kind of forms that foundational base for a public research university.
So it's not, so our graduate's a mission, but it's not a revenue generation center, I would guess.
It's program specific, but broadly speaking, that's
Yeah.
correct.
And I know, credit to your leadership and the administration's leadership. During the good times, I know we took several steps to de-risk some of our, things that we spend money on, and we took steps to shore up the financial situation. And I remember you specifically saying, and President Choi saying, we're not going to go programmatic with the ARPA funds, and we've been able to do a lot of great things at the university I know we can pay for now. So I'm glad that we were planning for the rainy day when it was sun was shining.
Yeah, I mean, we're the show me state, and I think we tend to approach things in those ways. Now, I would say when you take the ARPA money plus the increased state money that went to programs, and then you take a $300 million gift at S&T, you can do some pretty impressive things.
Yeah, but none of those were all, we worked very hard for those.
Yes, that's right.
They didn't fall out of the sky. So
absolutely.
That's credit to the universities. That's all the questions I have.
Chairman Graves, I just wanted to clarify something that Ryan just said. For UMKC, the split between graduate and professional and undergraduate is 40% graduate and professional and 60% undergraduate. We are in the realm of state universities atypical in that.
Yeah.
Usually it's 30-70 or 25-75.
Yeah. Okay. And in light of this is your meeting. You're not present, so I'll make sure that turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Are there other questions for Ryan? Ryan, let me just say, great job on covering a lot of complex topics for our university. I appreciate that. And if there are no further questions for Ryan, we'll move on and talk about the debt and credit update. And Treasurer Kevin Hogan and the Cheney representative will provide that report.
Great. Thank you, Curators. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of UMKC's debt portfolio and credit profile. Rob and I will move quickly, but please stop us to go with any questions you all have. First slide. Seeing slides. Is the group seeing the slide?
Yeah, Kevin, we're on slide 3.
Okay, great. So as Ryan highlighted earlier, with $1.6 billion in total debt outstanding, the University of Missouri Systems remains among Moody's and S&P's highest rated public universities. The only significant change to debt portfolio from last year's update is the $362 million Series 2024 bond issuance that I'll highlight further in a moment. Looking ahead, the only significant debt issuance activity anticipated for the coming year is for the Indy Memorial Stadium Improvement Project and the potential redemption of some Build America bonds and bonds. Next slide. The university's Series 2024 bonds were successfully priced in September of 2024. The issuance was led by Goldman Sachs, with RBC and Barclays serving as co-managers for the transaction. On the day of pricing, the university's credit received strong reception from the investors, including Vanguard, Nuveen, and BlackRock, among others, with a total order book of $1.5 billion on 362 million available bonds. It's a great subscription. At an all-in cost of capital of 2.9% for the transaction, the university's decision to expedite the issuance in advance of the election has proven beneficial, with tax-exempt rates across the curve moving significantly higher since September of 24, as evidenced by the chart on the slide. You'll see here that there's about a 40 basis point difference in yield curve over that time frame, and that's actually moved significantly higher of late with volatility in the market. Next slide. So at its highest level, the debt portfolio consists of 2/3 taxable debt and 1/3 tax-exempt debt. The portfolio as a whole carries a weighted average cost of capital of 3.2%, a really attractive borrowing cost for the university. Next slide. Total debt for the university consists of really three types: system facility revenue bonds, commercial paper, and other obligations. System facility revenue bonds make up the vast majority of the overall portfolio, about $1.6 billion of the $1.75 billion outstanding. And though that significant portion of system facility revenue bonds are secured by $2.3 billion pledged revenues. Next slide. Looking at the portfolio, the university has total debt and all other obligations of $1.7 billion, as shown here. 100% of the portfolio is fixed rate debt, and no commercial paper or swaps are currently instituted presently. So the portfolio has really been de-risked and simplified over the past few years. Next slide. So in terms of debt service profile, the university's profile shows significant principal maturing over the next 5 years, providing the university with ample flexibility to reposition or de-lever the portfolio as needed. That'll provide us great flexibility as we move the next few years. Significant goal maturities occur in FY 26, 28, and 31 is shown here. And those bonds will be rolled or retired depending upon the university's needs at the time. With that, I'll pause for questions related to the debt portfolio before we move to Rob Kanzer giving us an update on the university's credit profile. If no questions, we'll hand it off to Rob.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. And thank you, everybody, for your time. If we're able to bring those slides back up, that would be great. So if we move ahead to, let's see, slide 10, I'm just going to give a few remarks about the credit profile of the system. And as we go through these slides, I just wanted to start by saying, this provides an external view of the creditworthiness of the system as a whole. So when Moody's and S&P evaluate University of Missouri system, they're doing so on a consolidated basis. So that's all of the campuses and MU Healthcare all rolled up. This slide 10, just gives an overview of the credit strengths and credit challenges highlighted by the agencies as they evaluate the system. The last meetings and reports on the system occurred in August of 2024. That was in conjunction with the bond issue that Kevin mentioned. And I think in terms of the strengths, what you'll see here is very consistent from prior reports in terms of the critical role that the university plays in the state, both from public higher education standpoint and a healthcare standpoint. They also note the balance sheet strength and continue to note that strong financial management is a key strength of the institution. In terms of challenges, they identify high reliance on patient care revenue, which when the health system is performing well, that's obviously a benefit, but in tougher times that can also create some challenges from a credit standpoint. I think what we'll do is we'll go on to the next slide here. So just a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of some of the positive aspects that the rating agencies note. In addition to what I mentioned about the role as Missouri's flagship and land-grant institution, State financial support is considered strong relative to peer institutions. And again, they focus on, when they meet with management and the administration, just their understanding of sort of the interconnectedness of enrollment, financial capital planning, all the different strategic initiatives that make the university what it is. So on the following slide, in each rating agency report, in addition to, citing the strengths, they'll also look at factors that could lead to a downgrade in the credit rating. Not suggesting that that is going to happen, but just what are they looking at in terms of what could create downward pressure? And so one of the things that we look at is we look at each report, over the years and see, is the language changing? Are they focused on different things? And what we found, at least in the last two reports, is that the messaging has been very consistent, and it's really been focused on continuing to maintain strong operating performance. There's really very little mention of balance sheet or leverage or anything like that as it relates to debt. So operating performance, of course, is a key aspect of this. And then on the final slide, just wanted to take a moment to give you a little bit of context in terms of the system's credit rating. So as we mentioned earlier, the very strong credit ratings at AA1 for Moody's and the sort of comparable AA plus from S&P. The chart on the bottom here shows the rating distribution by Moody's for their public universities that they rate. They rate about 200 institutions. The system is, oops, we lost the, sorry, yeah, there we are on page 14. So just to give you a sense, that's about the top 12% of rated institutions is where the system lies. You can see in the AAA category, that's the highest rating category. There are about 7 institutions, and those are going to include schools like University of Michigan, University of Virginia, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And then in the AA1 category, where the system resides, you're also going to see very strong institutions such as Ohio State, Penn State, University of Nebraska, University of Minnesota. So you can see, as Ryan mentioned, you're in strong financial standing in terms of how these external agencies view you, and you're in good company in terms of the other types of schools that are in those categories. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments at this time.
Quick question. Is there a benchmarking our total debt? 3.2% is what we pay, and how much we have? I know our credit rating's good, so that tells us that we're in a good spot, and we're proud of that credit rating. But are we high, low?
So Rob, I'll answer it, and then you can probably add some detail. I think we can look at in terms of our weighted average cost to capital. Our historic weighted average cost of capital is about 5%. So some of this is just a function of you've been in this low interest rate environment. And I'd say, we're pretty comparable to peers there. In terms of the debt that we have outstanding, we've been around this $1.7 billion for some period of time. With these peers we're talking about, some do have higher amounts than we do. That being said, they tend to be institutions that probably are driving more revenue growth than we are. I think that's, the two things that they're most focused on for us is, when you really listen, I think, is, are we achieving that EBITDA or net cash flow margin, which is the same thing, keeping that well above 10%. We're running at about 12.5%. And then they want to look at, are you issuing excessive amounts of debt? And we certainly could provide some information, but I think, Rob, we've gone through that exercise, and it's never a definite number, but there's probably, we probably would have 200 to 300 million in additional capacity if we needed it. I don't know, Rob, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Ryan. I mean, I think the other thing, if we want to do a follow-up at some point in the future, we could look at, debt service as a percent of the operating budget in terms of operating expenses. And I think, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I do think, University of Missouri system is going to look pretty strong relative to similarly rated institutions in that fact. And there's a little bit of noise in those numbers just because some depending on where some institutions are in sort of their capital investment program, some, are ramping up and some are pulling back and that sort of thing. But
Just a question. I saw on your slide there a minute ago, you had 75% of the students in the MU system come from Missouri. Is that average, above average, below average for a university system such as ourselves, especially in the Midwest?
I think for the Midwest, it's pretty comparable. Now, most of those out-of-state students in the Midwest, not just for us, the University of Iowa and others, they're coming out of the Chicago area. Now, there are universities like University of Alabama has really leveraged out-of-state students. I think they're actually above 50% of their students.
We were there last
Yeah.
fall, and it's 75%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've definitely seen that, and that's the one thing, Rob and I talk about this a lot, the rating agencies at times highlight that, well, you don't have as much out-of-state, and that's somewhat of a negative. I can argue, though, at the same time, it's also a much more stable, like, the more in-state students you have, and if that's what your enrollment base is built around, it's going to be much less volatile than if you're enrolling a bunch of out-of-state students. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors in that, from the standpoint of how much competition you have within your own state for those in-state students, as well as a large population center such as Chicago or New York, where you're located from the standpoint like the Northeast. All the states there are crammed together, where here in the Midwest, we're all spread out, so it makes it easier or more difficult probably for students to go to different schools.
And we heard that, so I think that's been one of Alabama, they were really clear with us. I think the North, because of all that density, there's clearly students out of the Northeast that go, you know what, getting into some of these places. And so I think in the Midwest, it's comparable. You get into the southern schools, you're tending to see a higher amount of out-of-state students.
Well, that limits your opportunities and that tells you where you need to go if you're going to try and increase your enrollment. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
I had a question as well for Rob. So Rob, do you see a lot of movement within the rating systems for higher education right now in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there are a couple things going on. I do think, to Ryan's point earlier, Moody's changed their outlook on the sector from stable to negative, and that was largely due to sort of the shifting landscape with the federal government. But they do make a point of noting that, there is this bifurcation between sort of the stronger institutions and maybe some of the weaker ones, where this disproportionately affects those institutions. So I don't know that we've seen sort of outsized negative rating actions by Moody's or S&P. I think it's all been sort of normal course of business thus far, and they've not taken any actions that we've seen that are specific to the federal funding environment. But it's clear that, at least with Moody's, that they've kind of raised their hand and said, yeah, there could be additional pressure just sector-wide because of this.
Are there any other questions? I just had one observation, and tell me if this is correct. I am impressed, I guess, that over the 10-year period, the university system has maintained about $1.5 billion to $1.6 billion, 6.5 level of debt, despite the inflation that has occurred over the last 10 years, let's say, and despite the investments that have been made. So maybe this is a question for Ryan. Maybe it just goes to good management and being able to fund some of those things out of operations rather than borrowing the money for it.
Yeah, I think, we did have that period where we saw pretty significant growth when interest rates came down. But I think then, I think that's a credit to both management and the board. I think, I think we've always been prudent about not wanting to get to that point where we have excessive amounts of debt. And, I think continuing to stay focused on that's been important for us.
Thank you. If there aren't any further questions, we'll move on to the third item, and that is fiscal year 2027 preliminary state operating and capital appropriations request. And we'll go back to Ryan Rapp to talk with us about that. And Ryan, if I could note that I believe Curator Blitz had a question the last go around and couldn't get in. So Curator Blitz, are you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so Ryan, I was following up on Todd's question. How is it, or is there any plans that you have, or what do you see or think about how we increase our undergraduate tuition, since it's, seems to be the driving force of the revenue? Are there facilities that we need to do that? Is there marketing we need to do? What are your suggestions regarding that?
So I think a lot of it, for Mizzou, it's continuing to take these moderate tuition increases where there's demand. I think going to the 3 tiers along with from Mizzou and S&T, we went with the plateaus too, so that means students can take anywhere. Some of you who went to school here probably remember when Mizzou had a plateau. We didn't for a number of years, and we do now. What that means is they can take between 12 and 18 hours, and it's the same price. I think you'll see in May when we look at this, there's probably some room for MU to continue to move kind of towards the median in terms of what we would view peers and competitors. So there's room for us to grow there, but we're getting to a point where we're pretty competitive. I think one of the things we'll talk about is I think all of higher education is moving into this game of, it's probably higher sticker price tuition with more discounting. It's clear students and parents feel, they may end up paying the same, but they feel better if we say the sticker price is X and they get a larger discount for that. So I think, there's still some room, especially at S&T and MU at the undergraduate level, I think, to move that price up. And then, at the same time, I think we're seeing it, we're continuing to either maintain or see some growth in the enrollment.
So I think Todd pointed out that what a tremendous advantage S&T is as compared to Stanford engineering. And I find that just talking to my friends all around here, they're getting ready to go to a private liberal arts school and pay $60,000, $70,000 a year. And when I ask them what for, a lot of them have decided to stay at home and go to Mizzou. How do we get that message out? What a great, do you have any funds put aside? I'll ask you on the financial part, because it's more of a marketing question. But is anybody thinking about how we get our brand out there?
Yeah. And I do. You see a lot of branding that S&T, all of our institutions do that. But I think, you're right. How do we continue to do more of that? So there is money about that. That's the reason Mizzou, I think, we're the best value in the Midwest. And so just really continuing to push that. We'll talk about it in May. I think one of the things people get focused on the headline tuition, and you're absolutely right. There's our 4 institutions, I think, relative to the quality of education they get compared to those other institutions, there's just no comparison in terms of the value. And when you really get down to, and so one of the things we talk about is, you'll hear total cost of attendance, and for publics, for certain reasons, everyone kind of arrives at somewhere between $28,000 and $30,000 a year. But you really got to get focused on what's that net cost of attendance, and so what is it that students and families are actually paying? And it's far less than that. I mean, we'll actually show that actual net cost of tuition for our students has gone down over time, and that's largely been driven by there's been a shift from loans to a shift to providing more institutional support. The 2 things that I think when you look at what has driven the overall net cost of attendance up, it really hasn't been the cost of the education. It's been some of the amenities that students want. So you think of They want nicer apartments than maybe you were used to. And so that's where some of that price increase is felt, but it really hasn't come from what's been the cost for them paying for their education. But you're right, it's a message that I think we can always improve on, and I do know all of our marketing teams are focused and have funds set aside to do that.
Lastly, just to make it very short, thanks for your great presentations for all the time I've been on the board and everything that you do and how good you are at implementing plans. Thanks a lot, Ryan. That's all I have.
We have a great team. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we're going to move on to two action items. The first action item is to approve the 5-year capital plans for the University of Missouri Columbia, Kansas City, S&T, and St. Louis, and MU Healthcare. And we'll go back to Ryan, Executive Vice President of Finance and Operations, to present the capital plans.
Thank you, Curator Kirsten. We do have one, we have one information item left. If they could pull that up, I'll go through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'll just note we're 25 minutes behind.
I'll get us caught up here, I promise. I'll just get right to it. We are required under rules to submit a request to MDHE on April 1st for capital and state appropriations requests. We bring that back to the board in June for approval. I would tell you it's necessary that we submit it. It's the start of the process. Ultimately, what our appropriations are going to be is decided on by the governor and the legislature. So it's just important that we submit something. Here is what we're contemplating bringing forward in June. It's pretty similar to requests we saw last year for capital, and then for operating its inflationary increases and maintenance of our line items. But happy to answer any questions. If not, go ahead, Curator Cruson.
No, thank you, Ryan. See, I was trying to move us along. I skipped over a whole topic there. Now we will move on to the first action item.
So the first is just capital planning. All new capital projects over $5 million require board approval. Anything that's renovation or infrastructure in $8 million requires approval. And then any projects that are externally funded with debt, so if we could get to the next set of slides, require board approval. We delineate between projects of those that have been included in our financial plans and then those that are really strategic development projects that we don't really have a plan of how we're going to fund them. We want the board to be aware of what we're doing. The capital plans come before the board each April, and then revisions are made in September. Just with the approval of the capital plan, it's not the approval of the actual project. It's really giving us the authorization to move forward with further planning to look to bring this back before the board. I'm not going to read through all of these. I think we've been through many of these projects. They're in your materials for MU, and these are the ones that are included in our financial plan. This is really just coming off our new master plan. Again, these are still being developed and under development, but projects that we're considering at MU. MU Healthcare, there's no change to what was presented. UMKC, pretty consistent with what you've seen in prior plans. S&T, I think Chancellor Degani highlighted a lot of these in his remarks earlier today. With UMSL, the School of Engineering is the focus, along with Stadler Hall renovation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And maybe we could go over those in more detail at the retreat, just so we can,
absolutely.
Some of the new curators.
Yep.
Good idea. Okay, if there are no further questions or discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to approve the 5-year capital plans for University of Missouri Columbia, Kansas City, S&T, St. Louis, and MU Healthcare as outlined in the materials before you?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Voice vote, aye. Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nay votes, I should say, this action is passed. So next up,
You need to move to the full board.
Yeah.
well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll accept that as a motion. And hearing this motion recommendation from Curator Cruzen and the Finance Committee, may I have a second from anyone on the full board?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Finance Committee's recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Cruzen.
Thank you so much. Chair Graves, the next action item is the proposed naming opportunity for Dr. Dan Brown Building associated with the Veterinary Medical Diagnostic Lab at MU. Materials have been made available for your review and consideration. And Executive Vice President Ryan Rapp will provide a few remarks on this.
Yeah, so this, external spaces require the board's approval. The board has already approved the Phase 2 $43 million project. There's a groundbreaking plan for this tomorrow. Completion is planned for in fiscal year 27. But really appreciate the support we've received from legislative leadership and the governor for this project, and be happy to answer any questions.
So we are joined by Mrs. Kathy Brown, Dr. Dan Brown's wife, and also Danette Sherrill, who is their daughter. And if I can ask you to stand. Thank you very much for joining us and the tremendous support. We want to thank you and the late Dr. Brown for tremendous support for the University of Missouri system. When I first joined the university in 2017, there were many people that were very negative. They were very negative about the University of Missouri system. But Dr. Dan Brown, serving as the chair of the budget committee, pulled me into his room and said, "We got your back." And he did. He protected our funding. So we are forever grateful for his leadership.
That's tremendous. Thank you. Is there any further discussion or any further questions? If not, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to approve naming the Dr. Dan Brown Building?
Motion?
Second.
Need a motion from the Finance Committee?
Yeah, Jeannie, I think, made the motion. This is Fry, I seconded it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. So, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I move to recommend to the full board the naming of the Dr. Dan Brown Building.
All right, hearing this recommendation from Curator Cruzen, may I have a second from the board?
So moved. Second.
So we have a second. All those in favor of naming the facility after Dr. Dan Brown signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Curator Cruzen. At this point, we have a short break. Let's say, what time is it? 10:04. We'll call that 10 o'clock, and we'll have a 10-minute break, so 10:10. We need to be back here at 10:10, so.
Can I say something just real quick? I'll keep it short, I promise.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead and take the microphone.
Please.
I've got double vision, so I have a hard time.
Okay.
Plus, I do this, and I have to walk up there. I think I can speak loud enough, but I want to speak for my family, my son and my daughter, and my grandchildren, and tell you thank you so much. This is quite an accomplishment. 18-year-old Texas County farm boy that went to the University of Missouri, and he knew from 4th grade that he wanted to go to Mizzou and he wanted to be a veterinarian. And at 18 years old, he went, and so anybody that has a dream, you can complete your dream, because he was there 8 years, I lived there 7 years. We were married. After the first year, he attended an undergraduate school. So this is quite an honor, and
from the bottom of my heart on behalf of me and my family, thank you all so much, so much. Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite a legacy, and I know that he was beloved by his colleagues in the Senate, and I've been instructed that if we didn't pass this, we would have trouble in the future, so thank you very much. All right, I see 5 curators in the, in the room, so we're going to go ahead and continue. Curator Fry, I'll turn it over to you for the Governance, Compensation, Human Resources Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Governance.
Pull your mic.
Oh, yes, thank you. The Governance, Compensation, and Human Resources Committee has 2 information items today. First is a written report, the Annual Retirement Plan Actuarial Report, which is in your board materials. Secondly, Chief Human Resources Officer Dr. Marcia Fisher will now present the 2024 Annual Benefits Report. Marcia?
Thank you, Curator Fry. So in your materials is the comprehensive and complete annual benefits report that talks to you about trends, costs, and strategies that we have in this space. I would like to highlight just a few items for you and then be available to answer questions as well. So the University of Missouri offers a variety of market competitive benefits, including choice of health plans, as well as a retirement plan based on date of hire. And the slide will show you some of those benefits that we offer. I would highlight for you the tuition assistance, because that is really a differentiator for us and a benefit that's really valued by our employees. So dependents of employees can receive a 50% reduction in tuition, and employees for themselves can receive a 75% reduction. When we think about our benefits, it's important to realize that about 89% are through either the combination of the benefit and the retirement plan. So we'll focus our attention on those 2 items. You'll see we have about 20,000 employees who are enrolled in our medical plans and almost 40,000 covered individuals in the medical plans. Year over year, we'll often look at the percentage of benefit eligible, the percentage of benefits spend against the benefit eligible salaries. And we do that because we'll have fluctuation in number of employees, and that's a consistent way to evaluate. Excuse me. We did see a little less than a percentage increase in that percent this year at 27.42, but I would also note that it is still down from the FY19, FY20 year. I also highlight for you that catastrophic claims had about an 18% increase, and that was a 26% of the total spend. As we look to the next slide, we'll see that cancer was that #1 driver on our medical plans and our catastrophic spends. And pharmaceutical is another space that is rising at a rate higher than inflation in an area that we really look to put strategies in place. This is an important slide, and I'll highlight a few areas for you. So it's really important for us that we offer market competitive plans that our employees expect, but at the same time, we have to control cost for our employees as well as for the university. So in your appendix is a 3-year roadmap of all the strategies that we put in place, but I'll highlight a few for you. So there are a variety of medical plan programs that we have, which really is influencing behavior and trying to get the most quality care at the most cost-effective price. Right now, we're in the process of 2 really important requests for proposals, or RFPs, for our medical and our pharmacy. And it's important that we go to market to test the market to make sure that we're getting competitive benefits at the best rate. Another area that I would highlight for you is we have a unique partnership with MU Healthcare for our custom network plan, where we're able to set metrics on quality as well as metrics on cost so that we can improve both the benefits that the employees receive as well as controlling some of those costs. And at the end of this presentation, I want to go into more detail about the defined contribution opt-in plan that we'll be bringing to you in June. But first, let's talk about the pension plan. It's important to note that the university has and continues to make the actuary-determined contribution to the plan. The funding ratio improved or increased slightly from 2023 to the 78.41%. And that was mainly due to positive investment returns being ahead of the actuarially set amount. So I want to spend a little bit of time on what the board can expect that we'll be bringing to you in June for approval. We have had over the years a number of employees who've made the request to move from the defined benefit plan to the defined contribution plan. So we're going to have an optional program for current employees that would allow them to do that. It would allow them to move the defined benefit lump sum amount and deposit it into a defined contribution 401A account. They would then continue to be, from that point forward, in the defined contribution plan. We're partnering with Milliman and Fidelity for employee education. And as you'll see, we have a timeline once it's brought for approval, assuming it's approved in June by the board. There'll be a robust education of our employees, as well as a communication strategy with the intent of having the option being available in early April and finalized in 2026. So I'm really excited about this program because it gives choice to employees in deciding if they want to move from the defined benefit plan into the defined contribution plan for their retirement. So those are the things that I had highlighted for you all, and happy to answer any more questions that you might have about the annual benefits report.
Great report, thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I'd like to, just for the benefit of the new curators, to kind of walk through a couple of things. When did we go, and this is employees, not faculty, correct?
It will be all employees, faculty, and staff.
But when did we go from the defined benefit plan to the defined contribution plan?
So there's been two different steps. In October of 12, there was a hybrid plan that was introduced, which is part defined benefit and part defined contribution plan. In October of 17, all new employees, faculty, and staff are now in a defined contribution plan that is a matching of up to 8%.
And so that de-risks, we're no longer in charge of, at least with the new employees, of meeting certain investing goals and so forth. That's their freedom, and they can invest how they want.
That's right.
We're continuing to try to de-risk that by offering voluntary opportunities for them to leave the defined benefit plan, the legacy.
That's right.
And every year as a university, we contribute, is it around 80 billion? Is that right? Million, I mean, yeah, billion, woo.
This last
What's
year,
what's a
let's see,
million
I had it on
billion?
my slide. Let me just refresh my memory. We contributed 125 million towards the unfunded liability.
Yeah, so 125 million comes out of our budget every year to pay for previous underfunding of the defined benefit plan, just by way of background.
Yeah, and I'd just add that the closing of the plan and the steps that have been taken, there's still a large liability we have to deal with, but just by closing it, it's already brought that down by about 250 million. So, I think, to Marcia's point, I think between management and the board, there's been consistent steps to continue to try to deal with this, and I think that's just what we're looking at, is just that next step.
All right, that's all I had.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the business of the Compensation, Human Resources and Governance Committee.
All right, thank you, Curator Fry. Next up, we have Curator Singfield with the Academic Student Affairs Research and Economic Development Committee. I turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Today, the committee has one information item, the annual intercollegiate athletics report from S&T, and two action items, one new degree program proposal from the University of Missouri-Columbia, and one new degree program proposal from Missouri S&T. So we'll begin with the S&T Intercollegiate Athletics Report. The Director of Athletics, Melissa Ringhausen, is here today to walk us through the S&T's athletic programs and answer your question. You may begin.
Good morning. Do I start the slides or slides? There we go. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you. I always enjoy getting the opportunity to share the successes of minor athletics with all of you. Starting with slide 1, there we go. First of all, just to refresh everybody, here at S&T, we sponsor 17 sports, 7 women's sports and 10 men's programs, competing at the NCAA Division II level in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. In the fall of 2023, S&T had 450 student athletes representing minors on the field and in the classroom. At S&T, we take great pride in our athletic success, but what truly sets our student athletes apart is that many of our competitors, is that our student athletes are very unique in that in their academic success in comparison to many of our competitors. For the past 2 years, our student athletes have recorded a cumulative GPA of 3.53, an exceptional accomplishment that our student athletes, coaches, and staff are so proud of. This is a testament to the discipline and work ethic of a minor student athlete. To break that down even further, our women's program carried an average GPA of 3.58, while the men's program were right behind them with a 3.47. Beyond the GPA, our federal graduation rate for student athletes rose to 73%, an increase of 1% last year, and our academic success rate improved to 80%, up 2%. Consistently, our student athletes far exceed the graduation rate of the general student population, which underscores the incredible intelligence, leadership, and drive of our student athletes. They are leaders on campus, in our community, and without question, some of our brightest students on our campus. To put the academic achievement into perspective, this slide shows a 10-year GPA trend within our department. You can see where we were 10 years ago at a 3.12 and where we are today at 3.53. That consistent upward trajectory speaks to a culture of academic accountability that has become a cornerstone within our department. The recognition does not stop with just GPA. We've seen a continued rise in the number of student athletes being honored with academic awards at the conference, regional, and national levels. From all GLVC academic teams to NCAA Academic All-America honors, our athletes are gaining more recognition than ever before. It's a reflection of both individual excellence and the strong support our coaches, faculty, and staff give to our student athletes. It's a village of people here at S&T working together that makes this happen. Athletically, we've made great strides as well. In the year of 2023-24, Missouri S&T earned its 3rd highest point total ever in the NCAA Division II Learfield Directors' Cup standings. For those unfamiliar, the Directors' Cup is a national ranking system that awards points based on a school's performance across all NCAA Division II championship sports. The more teams that qualify and succeed in postseason competition, the higher the point total. Basically, this means our teams are competing better and going further into postseason. Our high finish is a direct result of competitive excellence across multiple programs within our department. Across the board, our student athletes continue to earn high-level recognition, not just for academics, but also for their athletic achievements. Conference championships, regional accolades, and NCAA honors continue to validate the work being done by our coaching staff and student athletes to compete at the highest levels. Our student athletes continue to receive numerous awards and accolades for their outstanding performance. In 2023-24, the athletic department was filled with some incredible and memorable team performances. Our track and field team won its 4th GLVC championship, an impressive mark of consistency and dominance in the GLVC. Our softball team made history, winning its first ever conference tournament title for any women's team at Missouri S&T, dating back to the start of women's athletics here at S&T in 1974. They entered the GLVC tournament as the 8th seed, so the last seed, and knocked off the #1 team in the nation, the University of Indianapolis, to win the GLVC tournament and to gain an automatic bid to the NCAA regional tournament. To say it was a truly historic and exciting run towards the end of their season. Women's volleyball qualified for the NCAA Midwest Regional for just the 3rd time in the program's history. Men's golf, after finishing in the top 8 in the nation the previous year, had another strong season by qualifying for the NCAA regional tournament. And our men's swimming team, arguably probably one of our most traditionally successful programs, finished 12th at the NCAA championships, in which all 6 swimmers that qualified were honored as first team All-Americas. That's pretty incredible, pretty unprecedented, actually. So congratulations to them. But being a minor student athlete is more than just wins and championships. We focus heavily in our athletic department on the student athlete experience. That means connecting them with alumni, engaging them in community service, celebrating their academic and athletic achievements, and creating opportunities for growth outside their sport. Whether it's mentorship programs, leadership programs, or service partnerships, we are preparing young men and women for success long after their playing days are over. So in summary, 2023-24 was an outstanding year for minor athletics as a whole. We saw historic team performances, rising national recognition, academic excellence, and a deeper engagement within the community and with our alumni. Obviously, none of this is possible without the commitment of our faculty, our staff, coaches, student athletes, and our leaders, including all of you. So thank you for always giving me the opportunity to come up here and share this with you during this time. It's always an honor and it's always a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that report. Are there any questions from the committee or any member of the board? Okay. Thank you. Next, we will review. Yes. Next, we will review and consider for approval 2 new degree proposals. Each campus will present their proposals and answer questions. After both presentations are made, we will introduce a motion for approval of both proposals as a single package. That's to help Valerie not to have to do it twice. Thank you. The first new degree proposal is a PhD in Human Development and Family Science at the University of Missouri-Columbia. Dr. Sarah Diem, is she here?
Yep. She's up there.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was looking at the podium. Is the interim dean for the College of Education and Human Development, and Dr. Brenda Lohman is the chair of the Department of Human Development and Family Science, are joining via Zoom to provide a brief presentation and answer any questions. So it's your turn.
Great. Thank you so much, curators, for your time and review of our request regarding the PhD program in Human Development and Family Science at MU. I'll provide a brief overview of the program, and should you have any questions, Dr. Lohman is also here and will be able to provide additional information. Human Development and Family Science is an interdisciplinary field that studies the development of individuals and families across the lifespan. It focuses on how people grow and change physically, emotionally, socially, and cognitively from infancy to old age, and how family relationships and social environments influence this development. The PhD program in Human Development and Family Science has been in existence for decades. Indeed, the program has accepted, trained, and graduated and placed doctoral students since the early 1970s. The program has been an emphasis under the PhD in Human Environmental Sciences. Given an academic restructuring on campus that took place a few years ago, including the dissolution of the College of Human Environmental Sciences and the Human Development and Family Science Department joining the College of Education and Human Development, the department has sought to become an independent degree from this umbrella. This proposal is a request for a formal new graduate program, but the request is essentially a name change that will allow Human Development and Family Science graduates to hold a degree title reflecting the field. The faculty and students in the Human Development and Family Science PhD are internationally and nationally recognized for their scholarship. Alumni in the field of Human Development and Family Science work in academia, government agencies, run nonprofits, or work in analytics or research in businesses across the globe. Our PhD students have a 97% placement rate. No new resources are needed to continue this degree program. Thank you again for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee or any member of the board? Okay, seeing none, well, thank you very much. It's exciting for you.
Thank you
Seeing-
so much.
Seeing, we will move on to the second proposal. Okay, the second new degree proposal is for a Master's in Science in Geospatial Engineering at Missouri S&T, which I am very happy about because they were also a original founding member of the Andy Taylor Geospatial Institute, because we're going to make Missouri the geospatial place. So Dr. Colin Potts, Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, and Dr. Stephen Gao, Department Chair of Geophysics, Geological Engineering, are here to provide a brief presentation and answer any questions. And for those who don't know what geospatial is the new macroscope. So you may begin.
Thank you, Curator Sinkfield. You stole my thunder. The proposed master's degree is in geospatial engineering, will be administered by the Department of Earth Science and Engineering as part of the College of Engineering and Computing here at S&T, and Dr. Gao is the chair of that department. But it is an interdisciplinary degree, and you'll see at the end of the proposal that you have that there is a committee from several departments who are going to be administering the curriculum. We put this degree together in response to the workforce development needs of Missouri and the nation. Geospatial technologies are growing and play a key role in Missouri's economy. The global geospatial market is expected to grow 12% per year until at least 2030. And this degree program will help position S&T as an educational leader within the broader St. Louis region, a growing hub of geospatial jobs and education, including the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the Taylor Geospatial Institute, and many geospatial-related startups. S&T is dedicated to ensuring that we have the faculty expertise and physical infrastructure to support this new degree program. It will consist of 30 credit hours and is designed for students with bachelor's degrees in various technical fields. The curriculum will focus on fundamental technologies like global positioning systems, remote sensing, geographical information systems, drones and robotics, and data analytics. We estimate an enrollment initially of 5 to 10 students with about a 35% growth rate for the first 3 years, ultimately resulting in a total enrollment of about 60 students in year 5. And Curator Graves, you asked a question earlier about the balance between research degrees or graduate degrees and undergraduate degrees. This is a non-research graduate degree. It's an advanced degree, but the students will be enrolled as tuition-paying students. In conclusion, we believe that the geospatial engineering field will be a rich and exciting and successful enterprise for us, and this is an important degree program in that area, and it will produce workforce development, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I will defer the difficult ones to my colleague, Dr. Gao.
Dr. Gao, oh, you want to, okay, are there any questions for the provost at this time?
Right here. I have a comment.
Comment.
So, Provost Potts, I just want to make it very clear, the students that are receiving this degree do not have to perform research, but it does take research faculty
Absolutely.
and investments in research. So this is an expensive program that we can run
Absolutely.
because we've already made those investments.
Yes.
But if you were to start it from scratch, it would take a lot of resources.
That's absolutely right, and in fact, it's one of several degrees of exactly that character that we are proposing, and we have done over the past several years. So thank you for elaborating that.
Are there any other questions? Well, let's go to the in-depth analysis. Dr. Gao?
Do you have anything to present?
No, are you going to talk and tell us a little more? Okay. So are there any more questions? Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are any further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to recommend approval of the 2 new degree programs as presented in the material?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hi, Bob. Okay, for all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, good. The motion carries. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the committee, I move to recommend to the full board that the PhD in Human Development and Family Sciences at MU and the Master of Science in Geospatial Engineering at Missouri S&T be approved.
All right, hearing this recommendation and motion from Curator Singfield, may I have a second from the board?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move forward with the proposal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you, Curator Singfield. Is that the conclusion of your business?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to the Health Affairs Committee. Sitting in for Mike Williams today, Curator Lehman will be conducting that, and go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Health Affairs Committee met last Thursday, April 10th. At the meeting, the committee members heard about recent activities at the School of Medicine, Next Gen Precision Health, and MU Healthcare, as well as a financial report from the CFO of MU Healthcare. I invite University of Missouri's Executive Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs and Dean of the MU School of Medicine, Dr. Richard Barron, to share key details from the information that was presented at last week's meeting. Dr. Barron?
Thank you, Curator Lehman, and good morning, Curator Graves and members of the board. Let me go to my next slide, please. So here's my agenda for the day. I'm going to provide updates on the School of Medicine, Next Gen, and MU Healthcare. In your pre-meeting packets, you received my full presentation from the Health Affairs Committee last week that Curator Lehman referred to. Today, I'll be presenting a slimmed-down version of that. If you have any questions about slides that I do not show in my presentation today, I'm of course happy to answer any questions at the end of my report. Next slide, please. So first, updates from the School of Medicine.
Let's go. Let's
You
move.
need
Let's advance.
there, okay, thanks.
So now I'm on the match day slide. Is that what you're looking at?
No, it's celebrating the class of 2020.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. So this is about Match Day, and Match Day marks the occasion where medical students from across the country open their envelopes that contains their residency match. It's a very dramatic event. We'll show you a video of it in just a minute. This year's class from MU School of Medicine was highly sought after around the country. 99% of the class received a residency program match, and that exceeds the U.S. match rate of 94%. This year, the MU School of Medicine's class of 2025, 31% will stay on the MU campus for their residency training, and 46% will remain in Missouri, and 32% are doing residencies in primary care fields. So we're very proud of all those numbers. And a milestone was reached this year when one of our Springfield medical students, Emily Winfrey, matched into the family medicine residency at Cox Health. So she's staying in Springfield. We are all very excited about this, and let me show you a brief video of the match. So if the IT people can run the video, please.
Been a lot of, long days, long nights, and it all kind of pays off in one moment when you open the door. Started to open that letter, then felt that rush of emotions, and started hearing pockets of people screaming in excitement behind us, which was really fun to see.
My parents were screaming. My sister and her partner were also screaming. So it just feels so good to be surrounded by people who are so excited for me.
My sister flew in yesterday and surprised me. I didn't know she was going to be here. And then my mom was in Georgia, so she flew in too. They knew how much this meant to just be here and make it happen.
I'm doing plastic surgery at Galveston, Texas, UTMB, so I'm very excited about that. There's just so many people going such incredible places, and we're so excited to be able to stay at the zoo and get incredible training here, be in that new children's hospital.
Everyone here has worked so hard over the last 4 years. I'm really
Well, I hope everyone in the room has a smile on their face. It's hard not to after watching that video. And so we've launched a whole new cohort of our graduating medical students in Missouri and across the United States. And to remind you, this coming year, we're going to increase our class size by 8 students. So let me go to the next slide, please. So let me talk about one of the graduates who opened her envelope that day here in Columbia, and that is Rebecca Ernst, or Becky Ernst. So the Mizzou Alumni Association and the Alumni Association Student Board recently named the recipients of the 2025 Mizzou 18 and 39 awards. And as you know, the Mizzou 18 Award honors 18 graduate and professional students that are in their last year of eligibility. Recipients are chosen for their world-class research in collaboration with faculty and staff and their demonstrated leadership to undergrads. So I'm proud to announce that fourth-year medical student Rebecca Ernst from Savannah, Missouri, was one of the 18 selected. So it's important to note that Becky was one of our Bryant Scholars. So she was chosen as an undergrad because she's from a small community and went through the Bryant program. And she is going to be pursuing a career in OBGYN. And when she opened her envelope on match day, it said she will be matching at University of Iowa, a very prestigious program. So I recently attended the annual Faculty Appreciation Dinner in Springfield, and I was able to visit with Becky and her most significant mentor on the Springfield campus, and that's Dr. Molly Greenwade. Dr. Greenwade is a gynecologic oncologist at Cox Health, and she's really been a role model for Becky and a number of the other Springfield medical students who decided to pursue careers in OBGYN. And Becky did her research involving gynecologic cancer with Dr. Greenwade, which I believe led to her selection. Next slide, please. So there we go. So I do want to take a moment to say a big thank you to our Missouri lawmakers, and especially to Representative Kent Hayden for funding additional residency positions in our state, including here at MU. So the goal of this legislation is to expose these residents to rural communities and the hope that they will choose to stay in Missouri once they complete their trainings, so they can, and this will address the growing shortage of primary care physicians in our state. So in 2024, we started with 2 additional family medicine residency positions that were state funded, and we're going to keep adding 2 family medicine residents per year through at least 2026. And then this year, we obtained funding through this legislation for new pediatrics and OBGYN residents. And for the next 2 years, we'll be adding residency slots in those 2 areas. So we know that residents tend to practice within a 60 to 100 mile radius of where they finish their residency. So that's why we believe that this legislative initiative is so important to the efforts to increase the number of primary care doctors right here in Missouri. Next slide, please. So I want to tell you about a program that was funded, a research program at the University of Missouri, and I'm excited to announce that Dr. Jim McClay, our Chief Research Informatics Officer, is the new Principal Investigator for the Greater Plains Collaborative. This is an initiative that links the electronic medical records from many prestigious academic health centers throughout the Midwest, Utah, Texas, and California. There's 14 in the group now, and it enables investigators from all these sites to access clinical data. And accessing this clinical data enables them to do clinical research, and they can do it faster, better, and more affordable. And they can do research on issues that are problems of great interest to our patient population. And by doing deep dives into this data in the electronic medical record, these investigators and patient partners ask questions and identify solutions that are going to produce health outcomes in their regions and across the country. So it's a huge program. And the University of Missouri has led the Greater Plains Collaborative for the last 5 years, since 2020. And the Greater Plains Collaborative is supported by a 4-year, $13.5 million patient-centered outcome research program award, also known as PCORI. So it's not an NIH award, it's a PCORI award. Next slide, please. So MU Healthcare has kicked off a nationwide study of pregnant women with heart disease in order to better understand how their care influences the outcomes of the mother and the baby. So the rate of maternal mortality is on the rise across the U.S., and Missouri, unfortunately, has some of the highest rates. And maternal deaths often come from cardiovascular disease, and it's probably the most preventable. So MU Healthcare is teaming up with our partner institution, University of Missouri, Kansas City, my alma mater, and St. Luke's Mid-America Heart Institute to launch the Heart Outcomes in Pregnancy Expectations Study, or the HOPE study. And we're doing this in collaboration with University of Missouri Professor John Spertus at UMKC. So the National Heart and Lung and Blood Institute is providing $8.3 million to fund this project. Now, at a previous curator meeting, President Choi mentioned Dr. Spertus and the UMKC participation in this study, but I really want to call out MU Healthcare's OBGYN maternal fetal specialist, Dr. Karen Florio. She's the principal investigator of the entire product. So Dr. Spertus knows how to run one of these big consortiums, but Dr. Florio is the lead OBGYN specialist, not just for the University of Missouri, but for the entire nationwide consortium. And so it's a great partnership. And in January, we were the first of 36 institutions nationwide to enroll participants in the study, which will include 1,000 pregnant women over the next 4 years. Next slide, please. So I want to take a moment to talk about our well-being survey, which was open last October and November to all physicians and employees at MU Healthcare and in the School of Medicine. So it's a national survey that's developed by the American Medical Association. They provide us the tool, basically, and it's to support organizations in measuring and taking actions to improve the health of their organizations. So our survey results were very encouraging in a number of ways. First, we had a great response, 47% participation, which was much higher than our expectations in the national average. In addition, and more importantly, we scored very high and higher than the national average in all key metrics that include important items such as job satisfaction, value alignment with leadership, feeling valued by the organization, and burnout. I'm sorry, I lost my spot here. The survey showed where we have opportunities, although we did well. While we're doing well in burnout compared to our national peers, we all know we can do better. So for example, 38% of our physicians reported burnout compared to the national average of 43. So while we're glad we're below the national average, we know we have work to do. And we know that some physicians feel the burnout and stress that's compounded by the use of the electronic medical records, which is an amazing tool that was introduced into the practice of medicine 20 years ago, but it does provide stress to the physician because they're doing notes late at night. And in a minute, I'm going to be telling you about some of the new communication tools related to the EMR that I know is going to decrease the physician's stress. The survey was broad, and it looked at satisfaction not only among physicians, but we also looked at nurses, physicians' assistants, residents, fellows, researchers, and staff. And the information from the survey is being disseminated in multiple venues now throughout the School of Medicine and MU Healthcare. And we're taking the information from this survey and we're incorporating it into our new strategic plan for the next 5 years, which is nearing completion. And you'll be hearing more about that at the June Board of Curators and Health Affairs Committee meetings. Thank you. And next slide, please.
Next slide.
And now I want to take a moment to provide one update on Next Gen Precision Health. And it has to do with the MU Healthcare and School of Medicine's 7T MRI in the Roy Blunt Next Gen Precision Health building. As you know, it's the most powerful scanner available to patients in North America, and it allows both researchers and clinicians to see inside the brain and the body like they never have before. And there are fewer than 40 of these new age 7T MRI scanners on the continent. and fewer than 10 have achieved the accreditation status through the American College of Radiology. So we decided to pursue the accreditation status because our 7T MRI, as opposed to other 7T MRIs across the country, sees a much higher level of clinical use than 7T MRIs elsewhere. And in fact, at MU, it's about 50% of the time is used clinically and 50% for research. So I'm happy to report that the University of Missouri scanner is now part of this elite group of American College of Radiology accreditation. And the types of conditions that the doctors use the 7T MRI on are things like brain tumors, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, dementia, traumatic brain injury, strokes, headache. But it's not all just the brain. We can also put arms and legs inside the bore of the scanner, and we can look at joints in a way that we could never see them before. So this work is possible through our amazing partnership with Siemens Healthineers, and this partnership ensures that our researchers and clinicians have access to the newest technology with the Siemens scientists who are embedded on our campus and who are the ones with our faculty that are creating this new technology. Next slide. Now I'm going to return to MU Healthcare. Next slide. So as I alluded to a few minutes ago, we have some very exciting new tools that are going to improve our communication across our healthcare teams at MU Healthcare. So Tiger Connect is one of them, and it's an improved and secure clinical messaging platform on your cell phones. It allows all physicians, nurses, and all hospital employees to receive information so they can stay connected easier and more efficient. So old-fashioned beepers are gone. They don't exist anymore. And now we can leverage our cell phones with this new technology to connect all of our employees. So we're also test driving 2 different tools that are going to improve our clinicians' workflow. So they're ambient listening devices that listen to the doctor and the patient encounter. And within 1 to 2 minutes, they convert that conversation into a formal physician note. It's amazingly accurate, and it allows physicians to no longer have to type when they're in the room with the patient or late at night to dictate their notes. And it really is going to improve the patient encounter with the physicians. A number of our physicians have been involved in these pilot projects, and it's been a huge success. I've had reports like, this is changing the way, my quality of life in an amazing way. So now I can go home at the end of the day and I'm not typing notes all night. So we anticipate rolling out the use of one of these 2 tools that we're pilot testing over our enterprise over the next year. So this is a definite technical benefit from the AI revolution. And we think that it's going to revolutionize and improve the physician and patient encounter. So I just returned from a national medical school dean's meeting, and during the discussions about AI, these new ambient listening tools for healthcare encounters was really the biggest buzz. They're being rapidly adopted across the country, and I'm proud that MU Healthcare is positioned to incorporate them into our practice. So in addition to improving the patient and physician visit, they're going to allow physicians to engage more directly with the patient so that we can look at the patient in the encounter. And patients are going to notice that. And as I already alluded to, it's going to improve the job satisfaction among our healthcare providers. So this is just the beginning. We're looking at other AI tools that we're testing and exploring for our physicians, nurses, and other members of our workforce that we know will improve efficiency, well-being, and the patient experience. Next slide, and this is my final slide. This is an update on MU Healthcare finances. You heard earlier, Mr. Rapp said that our finances are healthy, and that is definitely true. This is the consolidated budget for MU Healthcare. So we had a deep discussion about this at the Health Affairs Committee last week. And I can reiterate that our financial performance is very much in line with our expectations. So that concludes my report, and I will be happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give this update.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Barron. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our committee.
All right, thank you, Curator Lehman. We're now going to move to the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee, and we've asked Curator Raines to undertake to conduct that committee when he, as the chair, when he's never even sat through one of these. So we'll be looking to fly spec every little move you make that isn't right. So
This will be baptism by fire.
yeah.
Thanks. Apologies for my voice. Thanks, Chairman. Today, the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee has one informational item only. Jim Grimes will present the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Quarterly Report. See Jim is there on the screen now. Jim, I'll turn it over to you to review the work from the past quarter.
Thank you very much. Been new to the committee as well, so I'll go to the materials we have here today. Very proud to be in my new position here at the University of Missouri System. So as an UMSL grad, I'm very proud to be here. So move to the next slide. There you go. So just a summary of our internal audit activity over the last quarter. We've completed 2 audits. We have 8 in progress. 11 are not started from our plan. We've got 8 investigations completed so far this year, since February, and we've got 6 in progress. We've got follow-up that we're doing as well that I'll touch on here in a second. One audit was completed related to Price Transparency and No Surprises Act. It was a very good audit. They did very well, had some opportunities for education of a few folks at the clinics, but I think the overall result of the audit was very good. And they are looking for a little extra time to work on the action plans, and we're working closely with them to make sure we correct the minor deficiencies that were identified during this audit. Next slide. Follow-up, we've got 56 items that we're following up on as of now. One interim progress update is due. Action items completed so far is 49. Action items extended is 7, and we have 7 audits that were closed. I do want to mention that very happy with the team here in the internal audit group. They do a great job, and learning that they work really hard and do a great job for the university system. So next slide. One item has been extended. This is really just related to giving us more time to address the issues that are required to correct the noted deficiencies. It was due earlier this year, but we're working with them to get that closed. And they did ask for an extended period of time, so we're working closely with them to get those action items corrected. Next slide. 3 items are due at this point. One for UMKC, and export controls, 5 items for S&T export controls, and 1 action item for MU Healthcare they're working on at those campuses at this point. Next slide. Ethics and compliance. Our youth protection program, I think, is a very important program that's run and overseen from our office here. We do a lot of monitoring to make sure we're following all the required regulatory requirements for all our youth protection programs. We got great support from the campuses to make sure we're following all the rules and making sure we got all the documentation requirements. All policy elements have surpassed 90% compliance rate, which I do commend and appreciate all the support on all the campuses that they're giving to this very important program. Next slide. Another very important effort that's underway is Stop Campus Hazing Act. We're coordinating campus-wide efforts to make sure compliance with that important act. We're making sure we have the proper training for the right people across all the faculty, staff, campus security authorities. So a lot of focus on this very important act across all of our campuses. Research security and compliance. The big news, we're got a new export controls analyst hired for MU, which makes them full staff. We have a candidate identified, and actually since this slide was put together, we've actually hired the director position at System, and we've also hired a research security officer position at Missouri S&T, and they will start both here in a couple of weeks. So that's new news. Some focus areas right now in the compliance area, the CHIPS and Science Act, making sure we got training on track for the May deployment, which is all underway at this point. Management actions for the reorganization, which we're moving the research security group underneath our group here in ethics, compliance, and audit services. The director of research security and the research security officer, like I mentioned, are just recently got hired. So they'll start here in a couple of weeks. So that's great news. Next slide. In the privacy area, a lot of activity here. And just as a reminder, this really deals with the privacy of all of our data, not only PHI, but our students' data, all the software requirements that go along with that, and maintaining the policies and procedures. There's been a 38% increase in activity related to the privacy prevention work. So I think it's a very important area, and they're doing a lot of hard work to make sure we're keeping the necessary information private that needs to be private for all of our people using our systems. Some of the initiatives underway, consent management pilot is in progress and actually just went live at S&T this past week. We're expecting full implementation early next year. And what this is when you go to a website and you have that pop up, say, do you want to accept all cookies? That gives the option to the person visiting that website whether they want to accept or not accept those cookies, which then allows for better privacy if you do elect to not provide cookies. Spring semester campus visits, making sure educating people on the importance of the privacy requirements, and making sure we're assessing training needs at all of the campuses as well. Privacy awareness, training presentations, they're getting out to the campuses and making sure everybody's fully aware of what's needed in that area. Next slide. And that's all I had today. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Jim? Jim, welcome, by the way. He's only been here, I think, about 30 to 60 days. Very succinct, very detailed, but very important fiduciary responsibility. And, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the audit, compliance, and ethics work.
All right. Thank you, Curator Raines. This time, I'd like to open the floor for any items for the good and welfare of the board. All right, moving on, just an announcement. There'll be a press conference to follow the public session in the Turner Carver Room. And Valerie, let's get our times down. What time is lunch going to be?
As soon as you guys are finished here, the board can either go to the press conference or grab their food, and then the board will move into executive session and have a working lunch, and then everybody else can follow to eat.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further comments, may I have a motion, a second, to move into executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, moving into executive session. Valerie, please call the roll.
Curator Blitz?
Yes.
Curator Fry?
Yes.
Curator Graves?
Yes.
Curator Cruson?
Yes.
Curator Lehman?
Yes.
Curator Luchtmeyer? Curator Raines?
Yes.
Curator Sinkfield?
Yes.
And Curator Williams is absent. You have all votes in favor.
Okay, with that complete, the board will now move into executive session. Thank you for attending.